In life, you sometimes feel a pull so strong that you can't resist. The world is calling. This is Sailing Carpe Marinus.
So just got down to the house after being away for a few weeks and had a nice big stack of packages waiting to embark upon some boat projects. So pretty exciting stuff. We'll be going through this a little bit later to kind of break apart the plan and what we're going to do for the next few days. So I just got to the house a little bit ago. Got everything kind of sorted and situated. I want to go check on the boat for a minute to make sure everything looks good. I just kind of glanced at it briefly, but wanted to go inside and check out everything. I thankfully had my wonderful friend and neighbor down the street, Clive, helping check on everything while I was gone, making sure the boat is staying tied off appropriately. He added some fenders here and there. All around great guy. So I'm gonna go check out the inside of the boat real quick and make sure everything looks good. Like everything's messy just like I left it. Fantastic. All right. Don't see any signs of water or anything. Looks good. All right, great. Just went through it unboxed to get all the stuff prepped out and organized. A quick inventory, some cool stuff. I've actually had this for a little while. Didn't have it with the boat. It's just the helm microphone with the actual LCD display on it. So now you can see which channel you're actually on and change channels if you need to. This is a Navpod, super nice replacement for my existing pod, which is just really kind of clunky and ugly looking. Putting all new lights on. The old ones are just really bad shape. So go through that. A whole box full of NMEA 2000 cables and tees, connectors. We've got a big project which we'll go through the design of that shortly. A Garmin GMI 20, which I'm most excited about to see the performance of this display. And then took a little bit of a risk here. I've seen some bad reviews online with the gWind 2 wireless from Garmin. So I'm a little bit concerned about this, but hopefully I know Garmin makes excellent products otherwise across the board. So I'll put a little faith into Garmin here and get this installed, and hopefully it works out well. Got a this is an electric knife set for cutting some foam, which actually works really great in cutting new foam for the cushions. And then my compass is acting up in my autopilot. So I bought, just as I'm assuming it's the compass right now, so I've bought a Raytheon replacement compass here just as a cheap stab to make sure it is the compass. If it's not, it's probably going to be the autopilot controller, which will be a full replacement. It'll be a pretty big ticket item to replace that. And I had a couple more items outside. Number one, the water here in Cape Coral, they call it the Cape Coral cocktail. So I got some inline water filters to fill up the boat with. And then I wasn't really sure how much water I was using when I was on the boat on the last trip. So I've bought this little inexpensive water meter so I can see how much water I used and kind of put that over the course of, extrapolate that out, on average, and then over the course of a trip and multiply that with the number of people on the boat and see how much water, how long we could actually go on a trip without needing to put more water in the boat. So we'll see how that goes when I fill up the boat tank here later in the week. So super important when approaching the NMEA 2000 network to make sure I had a good plan in place. So I sat down and number one, just try to figure out what kind of instruments I want to have. If I had an ideal helm on my boat, what would I want to have there? And then kind of balance that out against what was available on the market as far as different combinations and things like that. So I took that into account when I did the layout and also what the helm pod, nav pod options were. But here's what I came up with. At the end of the day, right, I chose the Navpod with the two instruments on the side. This is a Garmin 1020 XS. I did just a layout of the helm, so I knew where it was at. Just knew what that would look like, you know, once I get the Navpod up. I do have a separate auxiliary panel. These instruments came with the Garmin wind instrument pack, and it wasn't really maybe $50 or $100 more just to get the instruments and a transducer, which I didn't need that. But I did get two extra instruments, which are actually quite expensive. So I went ahead and went with the pack, and then I've got a place to put these instruments over on a side panel on the port side of the boat. So we'll kind of walk through where those go at as the installation progresses. I also did a layout of the wiring. So I broke it down into a couple of different sections, right? One of those is how do I want to, or where in the boat physically are some of these components going to go, and what do I want to put where? So I have, of course, the Navpod and the instruments inside of the boat there. I've got a Garmin GMI 20 and the 1020 XS, which are going to be running on the NMEA 2000 network once we get it in there. Of course, have the Terminator for the very end of the 2000 network. I have the ST6002 autopilot controller, which has a C-Talk connection that's already pre-run, so I didn't think about that a whole lot. It's already pre-ran over to the autopilot controller. Moving down inside of the boat, where the cables are connected to, got the port aft berth, where a lot of the cables kind of come in proximity to that. There I'll have the Marine autopilot controller, which is already in place. I will have a dual T connector here to connect up, and actually ended up being a three-way connector, four-way connector with three of them used, which will feed the port stern console. Will feed the port stern console, and that will have the GNX Wind and the GNX 20 instrument there. From there, we'll go forward into the fuse panel nav station area. We'll have another four-way junction. There we'll also connect the Terminator for this phase of the project over to an existing AIS 600 from Garmin. We also have an NMEA 0183 gateway, which is the Wi-Fi variety. So it serves as both a gateway and Wi-Fi. I have the NMEA power supply that will feed up into the T connector as well. And I do have a little bit going on here as far as legacy wiring. I have a Ray 218 radio that only does 0183. There is some benefit of connecting the out of the 218 radio into the 0183 gateway and then feeding that into the 2000 network. There's a DSC function or DSC information that can be sent from the Ray 218 radio into the NMEA network. So we'll take care of that, and that can be fed into the chart plotter or perhaps the GMI 20 instrument. And then also the AIS 600 does deliver some GPS information into out of NMEA 2000, and I want to feed that into the gateway and then put that as an out going into the GPS, or out going into the in GPS for the radio. So I have my MMSI program in the radio, but I don't have any GPS feed to it. So I've got two ways to do that. If I can keep it all in NMEA 2000, that's ideal. If I can't, I'll just do a direct wiring from the out on the AIS 600 into the 218 radio. So that's the current plan. Oh, and I almost forgot, even further aft, I've got my GMR 18 HD Plus radar. So that is also a part of the system, existing part of the system. I'm just documenting it here, so I've got a thorough documentation of my network. Which is really great to have this start from the beginning to make sure everything's laid out appropriately. Can't forget the terminator at the end of the 2000 network. Yeah. Quick test of the instruments. Looks like they're coming on. This is not yet wired up, so I don't expect it to actually come on. But all right, we got power. It's a good start. All right. Get in here and get a little. Get this last little bit of splicing done. This is the old splice box for the NMEA 0183 network. And it's, I found it very, very difficult to troubleshoot this. So I am running a 2000 network for largely this reason. It is going to be so much easier to troubleshoot this. So a little tight quarters in here, but the pedestal's on the other side, 4-way T connector, and then here is the autopilot controller, which I've stripped back the NMEA 2000 ends, and I'm going to feed it into the back of the autopilot controller directly. So again, a little bit tight quarters in here, so I'll be able to film the whole thing. So here's the side of the circuit panel. I'm actually going to wire it to the nav comm circuit. I've got radar here, AIS here, and chart plotter, autopilot, and the radio here, VHF radio. So I'm going to do a little wiring inside of here. Okay, got some temporary wiring. It's kind of everything plugged up but not put back together because I don't like to get everything nice and put back together and then something not work and I have to tear it all back apart again. I've been there too many times. So got everything plugged up, working. I'm going to head above deck here. Whew, kind of windy. And let's see here. I've got GMI 20 set up. Store demonstration off. What do you want to do? What I call sailboat. All right. Oh, we don't have any instruments hooked up just yet, so we'll have to come back to that. Oh, we're getting depth. Perfect. And looks like over on the 1020 XS, I can see the autopilot, AIS, and the GMI 20. Wow. Okay. We're in business. Alright, so today I've got to step the mast and put the wind instruments on, replace some lights, both the deck light and steaming light combo, as well as the anchor light. So it's going to be a little bit of work today to get that done. Worked until about 10:30 last night, just working on the NMEA 2000 network. But at any rate, I got to get this stuff done today. I got actual work to do for about 8 or 10 hours, and get this mast step down as well. But thankfully, I got the right parts to do it pretty easily. That came with the boat. So anyway, gonna be a big day. So this little line here is to help me put some back pressure on the mast to get it started coming down. So I've right now got the main halyard as a backup. I'm gonna give it a little slack so I can get this started, just in case something fails with my primary setup. So I'll give this some slack, just a little bit to get started here. Put the clutch back down, then pull this off. Looks like I got tension. Quickly put this back and give myself a little more slack on the backup. Just a couple more feet, just as a safety. Now some weight's starting to come on.